Hello, beautiful souls. Today's discourse is going to stir something deep, 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 really, really, really deep. Something hidden within, beneath sarcasm, pain, timelines, and the way our divine masculines speak from behind their masks. Really, so today's discourse, really, it's going to really, really, really stir something really, really, really deep. So, if you have ever heard your divine masculine say something like, "You can torture me in another lifetime," then you already know this isn't just a throwaway line. You have felt it, the stink in it, the confession in it, and strangely, the permission in it. So, let's dive all the way in. What does it really mean when our divine masculine say those words? So, sarcasm as the soul's confession. So let's begin here, all right? Why sarcasm is the subconscious nervous laugh. It's the way the ego says something it's too afraid to admit directly. So that's why sarcasm is actually the soul's way of confessing. So if you really, 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 really look back at the conversations that you have had with your divine masculine, there would be a lot of hidden messages there. And being sarcastic is one of the biggest. So that's why sarcasm is truly, truly his way of telling the truth behind the subconscious nervous laughter. So it's the way the ego says something it's too afraid to admit directly. So when our divine masculine actually says, "You can torture me in another lifetime," he's trying to hold authority over something he has already lost control of. That is you. So he's saying, "I can't let you in now, but I know I already belong to you beyond this life." So it's a spiritual admission wrapped in denial. It's a soul knowing dressed up as ego humor. It's resignation disguised as rebellion. So it often comes true when our divine masculine would say things like he doesn't believe in past lives or future lives or even reincarnation, and so in a kind of like in a mockery, like, "Hey, you can torture me in the next lifetime." Like, truly, as divine feminines, even in the pain, even when we were in our wounded divine feminine selves, would know that beneath the sarcasm, beneath him being sarcastic, there's a hidden layer of meaning there. So that's why the sarcasm itself, the being sarcastic itself, that sarcasm itself, no matter how many times I say it, it hurts deeply. Because the tendency for divine masculines to be sarcastic and throw in a lot of sarcasm, it's huge. So, and most of all, it's the way our divine masculine surrenders without looking like he's surrendering. All right? So, the timeline he's secretly choosing. So when a man says another lifetime, what he's really saying is, "I can't handle the depth of this love right now, but I know it's not over." So he's revealing three things all at once. This lifetime is too much for his current self. You see too much, you feel too much, you activate too much, and instead of rising with it, he's retreating. Number two, he believes you'll meet again. So somewhere inside, he knows you're tied by something eternal. He feels the pull of your orbits, even if he can't name it. Number 3, he's giving you an exit while secretly hoping you won't take it. Another lifetime becomes a test. Like, literally, like, will you leave me now? Will you hold on? Will you keep loving me even when I'm pushing you away? So truly multi-layered. Even though I'm using a very, very general example, a very general face, this is the point I'm trying to make, right? So he's trying, our divine masculines are trying to say that I know you, I recognize you, but my 3D self is denying you. So that's why he becomes very sarcastic, you see. That's why the sarcasm itself is so huge. Because he's not rejecting us. He's not rejecting the pressure of his soul awakening in real time. So this is literally the language of the wounded king, the wounded king, the wounded divine masculine. So let's get very real, right? Most of our divine masculines, especially our beloved monadic divine masculine, does not know how to receive love that sees everything. So when we enter our divine masculines, our beloved divine masculines life, we don't just bring romance. We bring God. We bring accountability. We bring soul level wisdom. And that truth feels like torture to the part of him that still wants to stay asleep. So when he says, you can torture me in another lifetime, he is not mocking us. He's telling you the love he feels is already breaking him open, and he's terrified of what will be left when the shell collapses. So instead of saying, I love you, but I'm scared, he says, you're torturing me. Because the truth is, we are not in cruelty, not in ego, but because our frequency is shattering every lie he has ever lived inside. So this could happen after you have had one of your, biggest talks, or you've just confessed your love to him, or it could happen when he has booked a cab for you, and while you're waiting for the cab to go back home, in grief and in pain and in sadness, and you're already trying to ingest the rejection, and he would say something like this: you can torture me in another lifetime. How more sarcastic can our divine masculine get, right? And that is soul level agony for someone still clinging to the illusion of control. So that's the beauty of it, right? The beauty of the pain, the beauty of everything that you have ever known, you have ever believed, that you have ever felt, seen. Just a moment, guys. Just have to. All right. Sorry about that. So like I was saying, that soul level agony that is felt both sides, especially our divine masculine, who is clinging to the illusion of control, clinging to his beliefs, to his system, to because the thing is, when we come in as the divine feminine, we shatter every illusion that he holds, every illusion that he tries to bring in, every illusion that he's trying to cling on to, because he's clinging onto the illusion of control. You see, that's why past lives and the wound that lingers. I want to talk about the past lives and the wound that lingers. So here's what no one tells you. Excuse me. When our beloved divine masculine jokes about another lifetime, he's often remembering one. Maybe the one you watched him die in a battle. Maybe the one he betrayed you in fear, or you betrayed him in fear. Maybe the one he promised to find you and never did. Maybe the one he goes to fight a war and never comes back. So, this lifetime, he's already aching with unfinished stories. It could be a lifetime where literally, he was like a gangster or a mafia, and you had died because of him, because of the gang wars. It could be anything. But the point is, it's the unfinished story. Our divine masculine remembers what his ego can't process. That line, "you can torture me in another lifetime," just isn't just something you would say in the passing. Isn't just sarcasm. It's a psychic flashback. It's his soul screaming, "Don't make me do this again." Not like that. Because deep down, he knows this lifetime is the one meant to break the cycle, but he doesn't feel ready. That's why our pain is real, but it's also the portal. So let's be very, very honest here, all right? Because when our divine masculine says something like this, it hurts, especially when we are in our wounded feminine or we are just mad phase. We are like 3 months into the connection, 6 months into the connection, or when we had just told him, "Hey, actually, I like you more, than I would like a normal person," or you confess your love to him, or where you realize that your beliefs are totally different, or you believe that anything, all right? But the truth is, it hurts. We feel mocked, we feel dismissed, like everything sacred between us was reduced to a punchline. But if you collapse into that, we miss the portal. But beneath the mask of humor, beneath the denial, beneath the egoic laugh, our divine masculine's offering us something rare: the truth of his limitation, the edge of his capacity, the timeline he's afraid to claim. And if you stop trying to prove your worth, if you stop begging for this lifetime to be the one, you might just feel it. His soul will always, always, always choose us, right? But his ego is still negotiating the terms of surrender. And that's where our power begins. So this is what, as divine feminines, we must understand. All right, this is where, as the divine feminine, we step into soul leadership. When our divine masculine says, "You can torture me in another lifetime," we do not shrink, we do not chase. Let me repeat this: we do not chase, we do not beg him to take us back or take the words back. We hold the truth of the statement like a sword or fire, and we say, then maybe the next life, maybe the next lifetime, be the one where you remember. But secretly, quietly, within the vibration of our feel, this is what we should feel. And still, I know this is the lifetime you'll remember, because deep down we know. You see, these words are in disguise, because when our divine masculine communicates with us, he communicates with us multidimensionally, even in the 3D physical world, which, when we are in our wounded feminine energies, might not be able to see. All right. So when he says these things like this, you might just dismiss it as sarcasm, or you can choose to feel the vibration beneath the words. Because we are not collapsing into our divine masculine's timeline, we are holding our own, and in doing so, we become the invitation his soul can no longer resist. So, here's what most divine feminines don't realize. The moment our divine masculine pushes us away, he begins to feel the field go quiet, and in that silence a prayer rises in him, one he would never admit in himself, like, "Please don't give up on me, please know I'm still yours, please understand I'm trying." So he speaks in riddles. Truly, our divine masculine speaks in riddles. He hides the ache, he mocks the timeline, but inside him the portal is already opening. The joke he made, it's now haunting him because the divine doesn't forget the words that come from fear, and his soul is already working overtime to undo them. So let him laugh, let him run, let him scoff and joke and pretend he doesn't care. Let him be sarcastic. Let him go on the tangent of trying to mock the situation, ease the situation, because his words always mean more than what he's saying the surface level. So, but you heard the echo, you felt the crack in his voice, and one day he will hear it too. So as we move on to the second part of this discourse, the continuation of this sacred mockery, you can torture me in another lifetime, that he doesn't believe in past lives, but his soul still remembers. So let me continue this. The moment our divine masculine says something like this, right? You can torture me in another lifetime. But here's the twist. He doesn't even believe in past lives. He may call himself, he doesn't believe in this, he doesn't believe in that. He might call himself anything he wants to call himself. He may roll his eyes when you talk about soulmates, reincarnation, anything, or love. What do you do when the man whose soul knows you has a mind that refuses to accept it? Let's go deeper. This is where the real alchemy begins. So, let's start here. Just because, he calls himself an atheist or he denies God doesn't mean that our divine masculine is not being held by God. Our divine masculine might not believe in souls, lifetimes, or even spiritual connection. He might not even believe in past lives. He may call himself an atheist proudly. He might go around, completely in the opposite direction of us. But that's the design. That's the play. That is the outplay, all right? So he might deny God, but that doesn't mean he's not held by the divine. You see, he might go around the tangent of saying he doesn't believe in souls, lifetimes, reincarnation, or even spiritual connection, and love is a fluff. But our very presence is the contradiction his belief system cannot explain. So he might say, I don't believe in any of that stuff. We as divine feminines, we would have heard it more than we would ever keep count of, right? But our divine masculine's body will flinch when we walk away. His hands will shake. Literally, if you only look back and recall every little moment you've had with him, how his breath changes when he feels your hand brush against his, how his thought spins for hours after a single look from you. And the truth is, the soul doesn't wait for permission from the mind to awaken. So even when he jokes, you can torture me in another lifetime. Sorry, guys. Apologize for slurring on the words a bit. I'm recovering from a cough. That's why. Again, his soul is already screaming, I remember her, I feel her, I'm terrified of how real this is. So, the clash between belief and frequency. You're not just challenging his comfort zone, you're shattering the very ground his identity was built on. Because when someone says they are an atheist, they're often not rejecting the divine or cosmic consciousness. They are rejecting a version of God or spirituality or religion. More of religion, not even spirituality. Again, a version of religion or a version of God that once hurt them, failed them, or felt meaningless. Maybe he grew up with a religion maybe he grew up with religion used as control. Maybe he lost someone and decided there's no way a higher power exists. But literally, he will have the Lord of Death. Literally, he might call himself an atheist, but he would have some kind of, how do I put it? He might literally have a representation of spirituality. in a form, in some kind of form. He might call himself a minimalist, he might call himself a this and that, but his wallpaper would speak differently. It would be a spiritual wallpaper. He might literally have something, a figurine, a statue, or anything, a form that speaks of spirituality, all right? Maybe he simply never felt the proof of something greater until we walked in. So it's like pinching himself. And when we did, he didn't just fall in love, he felt existence change shape. So we didn't just stir his heart, we activated him. And that activation terrified the part of him that still clings to logic as safety. So he says, this lifetime is enough. There are no other lives. I'm just being sarcastic. But you hear what his voice won't say. You can feel the shake in his spiritual amnesia. This is where divine feminines often misinterpret what's happening. This is where we often misinterpret everything. This is when sarcasm becomes a shield against awakening. This is where, we totally misinterpret everything due to the hurt. When our divine masculine dismisses spirituality, when he jokes about reincarnation, when he reduces our connection to coincidence or crazy talk or meaningless or nothing. So you may think your divine masculine is rejecting you, but he's actually rejecting that part of himself he's rejecting a part of himself that is being remembered. Because to accept the divine feminine, to accept us fully, he must also accept that this isn't the first time, that everything in his life was leading to this, that his soul chose you before he ever met you. And for a man who's built his identity on being rational, analytical, logical, grounded in the material, he full on engineer brain, where he only thinks about rationality and logic, that can feel like ego death, literally. Divine masculines are like engineers, right? So instead he covers it in humor, in denial, in sarcasm. And he says, you can torture me in another lifetime, because it's easier to make a joke than admit our presence is the proof he never wanted to find. So really, even in that sarcasm, even in him being sarcastic, what is really saying when he denies the past? So let's decode the layers beneath his words. So what he says, what does it mean when he says, I don't believe in past life? His soul actually means, please don't make me face what I already know. So when he says this is all woohoo stuff and don't know what the crap you're talking about, what his aura is doing is vibrating, shaking, softening under our presence. And when he thinks that we are talking bonkers, what he's feeling is the deepest recognition he has ever known and can't explain. So you see, it's not that he can't believe. It's the believing, it's that believing would require him to completely surrender the safe story he has told himself his entire life. And that surrender is the very thing you came to trigger. So we are the proof that terrifies him. We are the paradox that breaks our divine masculine. We are the thing he said he will never fall for. We are the kind of girl or woman or lady He'd said he would never fall for. And we are the one thing his mind cannot categorize. And in that, we are his undoing. When he jokes about another lifetime, when he's trying to be sarcastic, he's trying to delay the inevitable. He's hoping he can defer the awakening just a little longer. But what he doesn't realize is the soul doesn't care whether the mind agrees. The field is already activated. The contract is already engaged. The lifetime has already begun. So every time he hears our voice, his cells remember. Every time he walks away, the ache grows louder. Every time he hurts us, he breaks a million times more. Every time he tries to rationalize it, something inside him collapses. Because we are not a theory, we are the truth he cannot explain. So that's why, as divine feminines, we hold the portal, not the pain. So this is the lesson for divine feminines, when our divine masculine says things like, you can torture me in another lifetime, I don't believe in anything like reincarnation, past lives, we are being invited into the deepest field of soul leadership, not to convince him, not to chase him, not to correct his worldview. Absolutely not. In fact, we can learn a lot about detachment, because life is about understanding everything and nothingness at the same time, right? So even in that depth, even when he says there's no past lives, there's no reincarnation, there is no this, there is no that, he's probably talking from the highest vibration, maybe, or he's just using sarcasm, right? Because but to anchor the frequency, he's pretending to feel, pretending not to feel, because somewhere inside his silence, his sarcasm. Oh my goodness. No matter how many times I say it, the hurt is hurt. His resistance, it's a whisper, I wish I could believe like you do. This is exactly what he's thinking. He wishes he was strong enough to remember. He wishes he wasn't this scared. And our task isn't to change him. It's to become such a strong field of remembrance that even his atheism dissolves into awe. So I want you guys to take a moment, take a deep breath in and think about the last time he said something that was sarcastic, and how did that make you feel? Let me know in the comments. Because you see, the sarcasm that he tries to use is actually, like I said, it's the outermost layer of what he's trying to truly mean. So it's kind of like a filter in a way, right? So really, beneath, below, because somewhere inside his silence, somewhere, inside his resistance, somewhere in his sarcasm, it's a whisper, I wish I could believe like you do, right? So truly, it all goes back to that, right? Our task isn't to change our divine masculine. It is to become a strong field of remembrance that even is truly atheism, non-belief, anything logical, rational, analytical mind would try to convince him of. But one day he will remember. Trust me on this. One day our divine masculine will stop mid-sentence and forget what he was saying. He will see something, a flower, a dream, a flash of light, and he will feel us. He will sit alone in the dark and whisper our name without knowing why. One day he will no longer be able to hold up that scaffolding of disbelief, because our love has been undoing it this whole time. And in that moment, he will remember, not because you forced him, but because you stood still while the storm of his forgetting raged. We loved him without needing proof. That's the thing as divine feminines, right? we can love our divine masculines without needing proof. Because we know that divine love doesn't wait for permission to be real. So, to all the divine feminines, to all the fellow divine feminines hearing this, to the women whose divine masculines rolls his eyes at everything sacred but still feels us in his bones, know this: he can reject, he can mock, he can joke about other lifetimes, but he cannot unchoose us, because we were chosen together long before belief even existed. And when he said, you can torture me in another lifetime, what he really meant was, I love you in everyone, even if I don't know how yet in this one. So stay in your field, guys. Don't collapse into explaining. Don't dilute your truth, because one day he will look at you and his soul will finally overtake his fear. And in that moment, beloved souls, you won't need to remind him of any past life. You will remember this one is the beginning of everything he came here to learn. So finally, and the final part, we are entering sacred territory. Not the beginning, not the denial, but the return. And this is for the moment after he said, you can torture me in another lifetime, after he laughed about past lives, after he rejected us just like that. I'm not interested. Make you felt like he has so much feelings and emotions wrapped in wrath and anger and dislike after he ran, and now he remembers, but he doesn't know why he remembers, because his heart beats faster when our name is mentioned, his hands shake when he passes a place where you once stood. He dreams of you but calls it just a weird dream. He stares at the ceiling at 3 a.m. wondering, why does it feel like she never left? So let's enter the depth of the last part of our discourse. So this is the moment his soul begins to undo everything his mind tried to suppress. So the first crack in the armor, it doesn't happen with fireworks. It starts subtly. Maybe a song he always skipped suddenly brings him to tears. Maybe a stranger says our name in passing and his chest tightens. Maybe he hears you in a dream, not as a memory but as a presence. And in that moment the crack happens. That very same man who scoffed at karma, laughed at soulmates and denied reincarnation now feels something foreign and familiar swelling in his chest. He tells himself, I'm just tired, I'm just stressed, I'm just remembering the past. But it isn't the past, it's the field, it is us. So when the ego can't explain the visions, next comes the friction. Because the mind doesn't like what the soul is doing. Suddenly he sees flashes, of our laughter, of us crying, of us standing in front of him in some other century, in some other lifetime, in some other galaxy. But he's never seen those memories in this life. He doesn't know what to call them. He Googles things like, why am I dreaming of someone I haven't spoken to in years? Can you miss someone who was never really yours? Why do I feel like I know someone from another life? And then he shuts the browser, because admitting it would unravel his whole identity, right? But it's too late. The unraveling has already begun. Grief before awakening. Here's what no one tells you about the divine masculine's return. He grieves not for you, but for how long he has forgotten. He remembers our love in pieces. He remembers what it feels like to be safe in our field, and what he destroyed with his own fear. And the ache, it's unbearable, because now he knows we weren't just a moment. We are a written point, a soul encoded promise. And when he said another lifetime, he was really saying, I can't hold what I already know I'm meant to receive. But now his denial is collapsing, and all that's left is our echo in his body. So that's why our beloved divine masculine doesn't awaken in his mind first. He awakens in his body. His nervous system starts remembering us. His hands crave our fingertips. His heart races when he smells a scent that reminds him of us. He touches, he may touch another woman's face and hear his soul say this isn't her, and it can terrify him, sorry. And it can terrify him, because how can someone he's not even in contact with still live inside him? How can he feel our sadness across time zones? How can he know when we are crying without seeing our face? He doesn't know what to call it, but he knows he can't switch it off, because monadic twin flame love doesn't disconnect. He just waits for frequency alignment, and now he's remembering the signal. His attempts to avoid the return. So he doesn't run back right away. First, he tests the field. So that's why, guys, this is a very, very important part. The testing the field. This is when our divine masculine would, if he has blocked us on social media, might use another person's account or mutual friend's account to see your activity. So you might watch your social media anonymously, talk to your old mutual friends to casually ask about you, or ask someone who knows you, mentions your name in jest, hoping someone will say you miss him. But he's not ready to face you yet. Not because he doesn't love us, but because he still feels unworthy of the return. So this is the irony. The moment he finally remembers the contract, he also becomes aware of how deeply he broke it. He's not afraid we will reject him. He's afraid we will forgive him, because that would mean facing the fullness of our love, that very thing he ran from in the first place. So what is the silence before the message? Before he reaches out, our divine masculine falls into stillness, sacred stillness, and we would feel it. Suddenly there's a pull on our heart. Suddenly our body feels like someone is thinking of us non-stop. Suddenly we are having all these intimacy thoughts. Suddenly we hear our divine masculine's name in songs again. Suddenly we'll be paying attention to the lyrics in the music that we always listen to but never pay attention to. It's like our divine masculine speaking to us. It would appear in dreams more frequently. That's when we'll wake up and say he's about to come back. And often we are 100% right, because in that silence his soul is rehearsing the return. He may write 100 messages and delete them. He may write 1,000,000 messages and delete them. He may try to call us 1,000,000 times, dial our number and then remove it. He may drive past our house and not knock. He may just come to a place we frequent just to see us from a distance and then disappear. He might almost text, "I'm sorry," but send nothing. But in the energetic field, he's already screening our name. So the return will not look like how you expect. Here's the truth. He won't come back with perfect words. Really, guys, really, no. So our divine masculine won't say, "I remember everything," but he will say something strange, something that seems insignificant but vibrates through your whole body. Maybe he will say, "Hey, just checking in. I heard the song you like, do you still like bubble tea?" Or like something, you might have introduced bubble tea to him, so something. And you will know he doesn't remember logically, but he remembers energetically. The connection is too deep to articulate, you see, but it's there, alive, reignited. And when he looks at us again, he won't say it out loud, but his eyes will scream, "You were right. I feel it too, always did." So exactly. So what happens after he returns? So after our beloved divine masculine remembers, not with his mouth, not with his memory, but with his frequency, everything begins to shift. We don't need him to say, "I believe in past lives now." We don't need him to say, "I knew you were my divine feminine all along." Because the feel will say it, the love will say it, his actions will say it, and most of all, his being, his presence will say it. Vibrations don't lie, energies don't lie, guys. You know that I say it over and over and over and over and over again in all of my discourses. Remember, this lifetime is the one that everything is going to happen. He might try to joke away, he might be too afraid, but this is the lifetime that is meant for union. All right. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed this sarcastic discourse. Just joking. It's not, the like I said, our divine masculine sarcasm is not something that he might not even do it consciously, but maybe he might do it consciously, but not knowing the depth of what he's trying to say, like Get what I mean? So with that, if you guys want to work one-on-one with me, you can book your first time Twin Flame Psyche guidance session in the description below. All sessions are conducted by me via Zoom, so you can ask me all the questions you need answers to during our session. All right. With that, I've introduced some beautiful healings. Do check out my website. And with that, I really hope this discourse, stirs you up. Nope, not stir you up in the way I mean, but really this discourse helps you to understand that in every word our divine masculine says, there's a multi-dimensional meaning to it. So that's why, even though this discourse may really hit us deep, but that recognition of what our divine masculine has always been trying to say, it could be a total eye-opener. And with that, I'll see you all again with another discourse. Bye-bye.